If you're newly pregnant, you might notice that your taste buds are changing, and wow, can they go crazy. In today's episode, we're going to hear from two different moms and if what you're craving can clue you in to whether or not you should be buying pink or blue. Evelyn writes, I'm 12 weeks pregnant with my first little one, and things are getting interesting. Lately, I've been absolutely obsessed with the most bizarre combination: pickles and cupcakes. Yes, you read that right. Pickles and cupcakes together. It sounds so good right now. I'm not so sure about that, Evelyn. Are there any other moms out there who have craved the uncraveable? My husband thinks I'm nuts. Is he right? Well, Evelyn, can I just say that I haven't experienced that craving, but I did have a very similar craving, and that was vanilla ice cream and pickles. No, not together, just happened to be at the same time. I couldn't find either of these in my home, and I have a receipt at like 8:30 for dill pickles and vanilla ice cream, and you bet that I hung on to it because never again in my life will I be going to the store for just those two random crazy options. But if this is the first time we're hanging out, my name's Brianna, fellow mom and money coach, and here we like to talk about money and real life. But if you're a mom who's been experiencing some crazy cravings, I'd like to invite you to join the conversation and add them below. And let's see if these wives' tales ended up being true for you. The first classic combination is sweet versus salty. So if you're craving sweet things, then typically that means you're going to be having a girl. Whereas if you're craving something salty, that typically means that you're supposed to be having a boy. I always think of that nursery rhyme where it's like, girls are made of sugar and spice and everything nice, and boys are made of snips and snails and puppy dog tails. I mean, I know it doesn't really correlate very well with the boys, but I think it works perfectly for the girls. So the other option is the citrus versus bland combination. So if you're craving citrus, then that's supposed to mean that you're having a girl. And if you're craving more bland things, then that means you're having a boy. But what happens if you're craving both? Because that's totally what occurred in my pregnancy. I was craving like the little peach gummy worms, not worms, like rings or O's. But oh my word, was I craving those really badly when I was pregnant. But then I also kind of on the opposite spectrum was craving instant mashed potatoes. How many times do I actually eat instant mashed potatoes, outside of being pregnant? Rarely, barely ever. Like, not something that's part of my normal diet, not something that's part of my normal pantry, but like instant mashed potatoes was the way to go when I was pregnant. So, I mean, how helpful is this citrus versus bland? I don't know. The other option is spicy versus savory. So if you're craving savory options, then you're supposed to be having a girl. Whereas if you're craving spicy options, then you're supposed to be having a boy. And this is definitely one situation where that nursery rhyme would not work because sugar and spice and everything nice. Girls are, that's what's supposed to be with the girls, and it's complete opposite in this case for the boys. I'm also curious if maybe like general food culture has a big impact in this specific wives' tale, because I do think that some of these like different traditions or like sayings can come from different cultures and different areas. So I do wonder if maybe that plays into it a little bit too. And then another option, or I guess wives' tale, is your morning sickness severity. And can I just say, I never quite understood this because like if you've never been pregnant before, you have no way of knowing like if your morning sickness is more severe or not severe because everyone's body is going to be different. But if you're having more severe morning sickness, then that's supposed to mean you're having a girl, versus if you have more mild morning sickness, then that means you're supposed to be having a boy. And I've also kind of heard that if you have heartburn, then that is like a signal that you're going to have a girl with red hair. Ladies, let me know if that ended up being true for you or if you heard that anywhere, because when I heard it, I was like, it just makes me chuckle a little bit inside to be like, how do people come up with these sayings. I mean, obviously, it probably occurred way before there was any medicine, and people were just trying to come up with patterns. So let me know if any of these ended up being true for you, and if you're experiencing any of these symptoms, like how many of these symptoms are like telling you, like if they were true, if you were having a boy or a girl. Let's go into more of like the weird flavor craving combinations, because by no means are you alone in that category. And I had a lot of fun researching this episode to hear about the different things and different pairings that different moms ended up craving for their specific pregnancy. So some more common but also unusual combinations are, of course, pickles and ice cream, which is a classic. Let me know if you ended up having that craving and if you actually ate them together, because for me, I don't feel like they pair very well, but I definitely had the craving for both. Another combination is peanut butter and pickles. And I do know that this is like, again, more common. I personally have never tried it. And it kind of makes me wonder whether or not after this episode, I should try some of these combinations and see if they actually are like, do they actually taste good, or are these just like weird things that we do when we're pregnant? Another thing is French fries and chocolate milkshakes. Yes, that's good no matter if you're pregnant or not. I can definitely attest to that one. I mean, you cannot get a Wendy's Frosty without also Wendy's French fries. Like, they have to be paired together. Like, don't even bother going to Wendy's if you're not getting that combination. And like that's the whole point that franchise exists, in my opinion. All right, next is spicy foods with sweet desserts. And you know that whole like chicken wings with waffles kind of thing? I think this is kind of more like typical up that type of alley or like food lane. Although I have to say, not being pregnant, I was thinking the other day, like, I wonder if like a scoop of vanilla ice cream would taste good on top of like a really spicy hamburger. Because like we have dairy, we have like, cheese, which is a dairy product on top of a hamburger, and that tastes good. But, I wonder about this stuff. Now, whether or not I will actually become adventurous enough to try it, like, I'm not sure. I think it tastes better just in my brain. I don't know that I'm quite adventurous enough to try it in real life. Cravings can be triggered by your hormone changes, and that sometimes what we're craving is because like our body needs a certain nutrient, or there's something specific within that food group that our body needs. Like if you are craving vanilla ice cream, which I mean, it's not like you need an excuse to crave it, okay? You are completely justified in wanting to eat that, but maybe that our body craves vanilla ice cream because it actually needs more calcium, and that this is like a really soothing way when our hormones are going crazy and our stomach is not feeling great, to like our body knows, oh, I can stomach that, and it also is going to have the nutrients that I need. Now, whether this is scientific or not, I mean, I'm not a scientist, so I don't really know, but it is something that I've heard. I don't need a reason to eat vanilla ice cream, but if you give me a scientific one, like, I'm all for it. Like, bring it on. You can actually be craving something that is also not food. Such was the case of our next mom, Coraline. She wrote, "I'm feeling all the wonderful pregnancy fun except for the weird cravings. Most of them have been manageable. Ice cream for breakfast, anyone? Me, thanks." But this new one is really throwing me for a loop. I've been obsessed with the smell of freshly cut grass. Like, I could seriously mow the lawn all day just to inhale the scent. I've tried everything. I found these weird grass-scented candles online, but they just smelled artificial and gave me a headache. Oh, that is true. I know that some candles can do that for some people. I try to walk outside on my lunch break, but people look at me crazy when I'm just standing there sniffing a handful of grass like a weirdo. Has anyone else experienced anything like this? Please tell me I'm not losing it. I'm starting to wonder if I'm going to have a yard-obsessed child who wants to eat all the dandelions, because that would be a whole nother story. Wow, Coraline, you have like quite a situation going on here. But can I just say, like, I love the fact that you're getting outside, you're taking your lunch breaks to be active. I am curious if this might be a way of your body, like, trying to naturally deal with nausea. Now, you don't mention that you have nausea. In fact, you don't mention that at all in your question. But I do wonder if this is like, if you are having this urge because your body knows that if you were to smell this scent, that it would help with like a sudden onset of nausea if you didn't have this to kind of help your body regulate itself, because scents can definitely help with that. I know you mentioned that you were having some trouble with the scented candles. So I'm curious if you also have a diffuser, because if not, that may actually be really helpful for you, since you can't spend all your time outside cutting grass. And if you're pregnant, you probably don't want to be doing that activity all that much anyway. I went through my own essential oils because there's just not one out there that I know of that specifically is that grass scent, to see if I could find one that kind of had that more like earthy scent. And this is what I came up with. So I personally feel like the tea tree oil has a more earthy tone, as well as fir needle. Now, fir needle is going to be very similar to pine trees, but I do wonder if you were to blend them together, if that would give you a very similar scent to like freshly cut grass. So if you don't have an oil diffuser, and if you're not really sure where to start with essential oils, then I will link both of those below. The essential oils that I have kind of came in a starter pack, and it gave me several different scents to kind of sample. And in fact, I've had it for several years. Like, that's how amazing they are. But if you're finding that neither of those scents really work for you, some other varieties that you could try is vetiver. I'm probably not even saying that right. And that's known for its like earthy grounding scent. Cypress, which can offer a fresh woodsy aroma. Pine. Now, this is going to be a little bit different than fir needle. Again, that's going to have that very green, outdoorsy fragrance like a pine tree. And then lemongrass, which will bring a bright citrusy note that can complement grassy scents. Now, I personally, when I was like smelling lemongrass, I was like, this does not smell at all like fresh cut grass to me. But everyone's scent palette is unique. So you may find that lemongrass is exactly what your body needs to kind of keep you from going outside and spending all your time pulling up handfuls of grass. Now, some women have even experienced some cravings for non food items such as dirt or chalk, and this condition is actually called pica. Soap or laundry detergent, coffee grounds, ice, which that can actually be a sign of anemia, and paper. So if you're craving any of these like unusual non-food items, definitely talk to your healthcare provider, because this could be a sign of something more serious. Not trying to scare you, just trying to help you to, just be aware that even if you don't indulge in any of these cravings, that if you're kind of leaning, like you wake up one morning, you're like, instead of drinking a cup of coffee, I'm just gonna like take a spoonful of grounds, then that's definitely something you might want to call your doctor and talk about. Now, with all of the weird cravings and affinities and like odd flavor combinations that we gravitate to while we're pregnant, there are different bakeries across the country that will actually create and mix up custom flavors and create a unique combination. It might be like in a cake, or it might be in a cookie or a biscuit, etc. However your specific craving is. So if that's something that you want to really commemorate at your baby shower, that may be a great way to kind of just get a laugh and also see who amongst your friends is just as daring as you. Whatever you're craving, hopefully you can find it without too much trouble, or hopefully your husband is willing to go out and pick that up for you. I was very thankful that my husband was very willing to accommodate all of my crazy pregnancy cravings at random points in the day, and he was mostly willing to go out and get them for me whenever I was having a craving. In fact, there were a couple of times I had to try and convince him to be like, no, babe, it's okay, just stay in. But I think he probably also liked the opportunity to pick something up for himself. But these crazy cravings will typically fizzle out after your pregnancy ends, so enjoy them now while you have the taste for it. As you progress through pregnancy, you're going to need more room for your growing baby. But if you're not interested in spending a fortune on maternity clothes, I'll link up an episode for you to watch next. Until we hang out again, create a home your heart loves.